I didn't realize how much of my routine depended on being alone until I wasn't. I live in a quiet suburb where nothing really happens. Rows of identical houses, trimmed lawns, the kind of place where people wave but don't talk much. I work night shifts at a warehouse, so my schedule is backwards compared to everyone else. I leave around 9 p.m. and usually get home a little after 6 in the morning. For years, that routine never changed. A few months ago, I started noticing that my front door felt different when I came home. Not open, not unlocked, just different. The handle was warmer than it should have been, like someone had touched it recently. I told myself it was stupid. Metal holds heat. I was tired. Then small things started piling up. One morning, my shoes weren't where I left them. I always kick them off right inside the door. That's muscle memory. But they were lined up neatly against the wall, toes facing out. I don't do that. Another day, the kitchen light was on when I got home. I'm obsessive about turning lights off before work. Electricity isn't cheap, and I hate bright lights in the morning. Still, there it was, on, humming softly. I blamed exhaustion. Night shifts mess with your head. The first moment I felt real unease was when I found my shower curtain damp. I hadn't showered before work that night. I remembered that clearly. I'd been running late. The bathroom smelled faintly of soap anyway, not mine. Something cheap and floral. I stood there longer than I should have, just staring at the tub, trying to reconstruct my own memory. Eventually, I convinced myself I'd showered and forgotten. A week later, my neighbor across the street stopped me while I was taking out the trash. He asked if I'd changed jobs. I told him no. He said, weird. I've seen you coming home earlier lately. I laughed it off and said my schedule shifts sometimes. He nodded, but the way he looked at me didn't change, like he was trying to match two pictures in his head that didn't line up. That night at work, I checked my security camera for the first time in months. It's just a basic doorbell cam. I mostly installed it for package theft. I scrolled back through the footage. Nothing unusual at first. Cars passing, a cat, wind triggering motion alerts. Then I noticed gaps. Hours at a time where there was no footage at all. Not even no motion detected. Just nothing. As if the camera had gone offline. I called customer support the next day. They told me the camera was functioning normally and that outages were likely due to local interference. I asked what that meant. They said it could be Wi-Fi issues, power fluctuations, or manual resets. Manual resets. That word stuck with me. I bought a second camera the same day, a cheap indoor one. I hid it on top of a bookshelf facing the front door, angled so it could see the lock and part of the living room. I didn't tell anyone. For 2 nights, nothing happened. On the third night, at 3:12 a.m., I got a motion alert. I opened the app at work, heart pounding harder than it should have. The footage showed my front door opening. Someone stepped inside. They were wearing dark clothes and a baseball cap pulled low. The camera didn't catch their face. What it did catch was how comfortable they looked. No hesitation, no scanning the room. They kicked off their shoes and placed them neatly by the wall. My wall. They walked into the kitchen, opened the fridge, and stood there for a long time just looking. Then they went down the hallway toward the bathroom. The camera didn't have audio, but I swear I could hear the shower running anyway. The footage ended abruptly. The next clip started at 5:01 a.m. The apartment was empty, clean, exactly how I usually leave it. I left work immediately and drove home faster than I ever have. Nothing was stolen, nothing broken, no forced entry. The camera was still there, but it had been turned slightly, no longer pointed directly at the door. On the kitchen counter was a note, just one line, written carefully in block letters. Your place feels safer than mine. I called the police. They took a report, asked the usual questions, checked the locks. There was no sign of a break-in. They suggested changing my locks and staying with a friend for a while. I did both. A week later, I went back during the day to grab more clothes. When I unlocked the door, the smell hit me immediately. That same floral soap, stronger now. In the bathroom mirror, written in the steam from a recent shower, were 4 words. You came back early. I never stayed there again. A month later, my neighbor moved out. I recognized the baseball cap in his open trunk while he was packing. I don't work night shifts anymore, and I still don't know how long he'd been using my house like it was his.